Hello and welcome to On the Sofa with Susan. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by 5 of the most incredible women I know, authors of Our Stories Told by Us, celebrating the African contribution to the UK HIV response. 1 year on since this amazing book has been published. We have Angelina Namiba.
Hello, Susan.
Winnie Ssanyu Ssseruma.
Hello.
Next we have Memory Sachikonye.
Hi.
Rebecca Mbewe.
Hi, Susan.
And Charity Nyirenda.
Hi, Suzanne.
Wonderful to have you here. So let's go back 1 year ago when your book came out. Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that the book would have this level of excitement and impact?
Well, Susan, actually, not this level. We hope that it would make an impact, but we have absolutely been astounded by the impact that it's had. So we're really, really pleased.
What our goal was to get the book out and to finish it, to have it in print, to hold it. So when we finished doing it, we were breathing a sigh of relief, and we just handed it over to the readers, anybody who was interested in it. We had no idea, how people were going to react to it, but we've been amazed and are happy.
I've worked in the HIV sector for over 25 years, and I can honestly say that there have been lots of brilliant books that have come out, but I've never seen this level of excitement and outpouring of love, and then just like the global impact this book has had. Can you share with me some of the impact that you feel that it's had over the last year?
I think the reception has been amazing. Like you said, there's been lots of love, and lots of love from places that we didn't expect. The highest for me, and probably for the group, was being invited to Geneva to present the book at the UNAIDS PCB. And for me, that tops it all. We've had brilliant roadshows, and everywhere you go, you get people just complimenting us on the book. Oh, your book is beautiful, the book is lovely. So it's just been really amazing.
Wonderful.
I think it's safe to say that the book has taken on almost a life of its own, because you get requests from where you least expect it. The enthusiasm has just been, it's been mind-blowing. So really, really exciting.
To hear people talking about it and also sharing their stories, that has been so overwhelming for me.
Absolutely. And you talked a little bit about the roadshow, and often when books come out, people do like a book tour, they just talk a little bit about the book, but your roadshow has been something else. Can you tell me about some of the places that you've been?
For us, what we aimed to do was to, go and take the book to different areas of the UK, at least a few of them, and then just see how that panned out. One of the great places we went to, which we didn't expect to go, but we got an invite from Winnie Ssanyu herself, was the UNAIDS Program Coordinating Board, to go and present our book there. That was absolutely amazing. It wasn't part of the plan, but we were invited. But then we managed to go and do the roadshow and present our book in different areas of the UK. What we did was we also worked with HIV organizations in those different regions to take the book there. And they were absolutely amazing. They accepted us. They took us there. I think my highlight is when we went to Scotland, where we worked with Waverley Care, and we launched the book in the National Library of Scotland. So they now have a copy in the archives. So we're there for posterity. That was one of the great, I feel that was, for me, that was a highlight of the trips there. And then also managing to go, we did that in Edinburgh, and we also went to Glasgow. So I think for me, that was one of the greatest part of the roadshow, but that's just one of them.
The first ever one that we did in Brighton, it was 4 of us. and arriving at Brighton Station to see people with placards.
They had placards, welcoming placards. No, go back.
We knew we were on something when we got that reception, and it was such a brilliant thing. So once that started, the very first one, everything else just fell into place.
Fantastic.
What really helped us was the organizations also invited us to go there, were prepared to help us to put together something to enable us to travel if we needed to stay overnight. So the goodwill was incredibly amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we ended up in so many different places, and for me that has been truly amazing.
What's been your highlight?
I think the offshoots, for instance, we got invited back to Geneva to talk specifically about the artwork, to exhibit that in the famous Red Cross Museum. The hosts were absolutely wonderful, and the engagement I got. We had people that went away to their countries, as far as Kenya, and she said, I've taken a copy of your book and I'm reading it to my cohort of people. So it's those little things, it's rippling through to places that we would really like for it to ripple through to people who really need the book.
People have been inspired by the stories in here. Then we've been called back to go and do creative writing workshops to encourage other people if they wanted to write their own stories, because people have stories within them.
And I'd like to jump back to the artwork. Charity, how have you felt about the tremendous response to the incredible artwork that you are responsible for?
It freaks me out. When I hear what people are saying, I have no words. But inside, I'm buzzing, I'm smiling so hard. Like, I did it, and you ladies, I'm happy you let me do the artwork and for trusting me. I just love it.
You are the expert, Charity. Charity is very modest, and I think you're very modest. In addition to that, we've also been asked to do some artwork for hospitals in Manchester, clinics, based on the artwork, and Charity led a creative art workshop with us a couple of weeks ago.
What inspires you to keep going and doing better all the time like that?
All the other women. We are like trees, and we sort of lean on each other. No one's down for very long, and if you are, then you have an amazing number of women, not just here, but all the people that we engage with. There's always someone to lift you back up. Despite all whatever's going on, life is good. I think the older you grow, the more you realize that actually nothing lasts for very long. It feels like a lifetime going through that really rough patch, but once you're through it, you can look back and say, actually, yeah, I did all right.
I think it speaks back to our friendship that we spoke about a year ago. Just that it's got stronger, I think, after going through this book and still being together here on this sofa. There is a lot to be said about how we as friends get on and how much we love and support each other.
True.
Wonderful.
For me, when you ask about the resilience, is also thinking back to, many of us were diagnosed during the time, and you can see in the stories within the book, in the early days when we didn't have much in terms of treatment, and a lot of our friends and families passed away, and there was nothing we could do. But some of us have managed to, like you're saying, survive and thrive to where we are now, as is, told in the stories. So I think thinking back to not being able to survive all that to get to where we are, for me, that keeps me going, because it reminds me of what could have been. I never thought I'd be here 30 years later. So I think that part of that, knowing that I have a great support network of friends, just watching other younger people come through and thrive and grow and move, for me, that's what gives me the resilience to survive.
Wonderful. One thing that I really love about the book is that even though I often don't have a lot of time for reading, I can pick up the book and read a couple of stories, and I'm always blown away and inspired to actually hear from particularly other people living with HIV and not feel so alone, and realize that the issues that they're talking about are things that are affecting me. Is that some of the feedback that you're hearing from people?
We did something the other day, didn't we, Angelina, where someone said some of the stories, you think you know someone because we're all interconnected. But then when you read their story, you think, oh, I didn't know that about that person. Oh, that's new. So it's like almost relearning people and looking at people in a slightly different way.
I like how people write even the worst experiences in such a funny manner.
Yeah.
There's one particular story, I won't name the contributor, but it's just the freedom to be able to write full name, picture, everything, and be able to tell your story that somebody else can identify with.
Every individual story in there has something unique with it. I think you just have to look at every story has a saying at the end of it, and that picks up from what the person has said.
As women living with HIV, many of us didn't actually expect to be growing older. One thing that we were discussing earlier is that this older women with HIV, we are the pioneers. No one's actually done this before. What are some of the issues that older women with HIV are facing today?
I don't remember having so many conversations around menopause as I've had. It still haunts me to say that when I started to feel the symptoms and everything, it took me about 6 months to realize that it was menopause happening. Menopause happening to me. And I'm like, why did nobody talk to me about this? Menopause, bones, breaking or not breaking. That's why for us it was so important to go on the book tour, and not just to talk about the book, and to talk about how and why the book happened. That book happened because we were already supporting each other as a unit. And the book is, our support network, our love, our enthusiasm, our resilience, and it comes through in the stories.
Having worked on one of the projects that dealt with women and aging and, growing older, when you ask the question around what are the sorts of challenges, it's a lot of social economic challenges. People were diagnosed at a time where you were actually prepared to die. Those that did have savings used up all their savings, said, I'm going to use my savings before I die. People worry about their finances. People worry about going into care homes and what will happen then. The stigma around caring for somebody living with HIV, are we still going to have to be facing that kind of thing? So there are lots of challenges around that, but also lots of hope, because people are really resilient. And until you actually get to that point, then people tap into that resilience, and then you move on.
It's very interesting that you were talking about the other issues in people's lives, because very often it isn't HIV that's the problem. It's social issues, it's housing issues, it's not having enough money, it's dealing with stigma. For many women living with HIV, it's dealing with violence from partners and from families. And at the moment, there's so many social issues, particularly affecting people from Black migrant communities, and you throw HIV into that, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. And I think just thinking about the recent riots in the UK and the hostility towards migrants and people of colour and the blatant racism that we've seen, how do you think grappling with racism and all of these other issues in the UK are impacting on people living with HIV from these communities?
Well, I think it's frightening for most people. People set up their lives in this country and they live here for a fairly long time, and then to get this kind of backlash, it's quite unsettling. So yeah, people will now walk around like walking on eggshells. What can I say? Where can I go? Who can I talk to? And you start second guessing even your neighbour of 15, 20 years. Just go, I wonder what they think. And it causes the unnecessary unrest. And I think it hides what actually goes on in communities. If you actually delve down into communities, the unity sometimes there is astounding. You find that people actually really get on. We saw that happen. We saw Bristol, we saw Walthamstow. People came out in droves. And for me, that's what I like to focus on. There's a whole load of positivity, and I think people forget that that exists. All the negative stuff just buries all the positive stuff, which is a shame.
Absolutely, and we can't stop living our lives. Because I remember somebody said, "Oh, how is it impacting on you?" And I said, "Yes, I see it. What I chose to do is not to watch the news. I also chose to just carry on. I went to the shops as I did. I did what I needed to do. I didn't want it to stop me from doing that." One of the things that I saw that I really loved, it was by, I think, a young doctor. He put a positive spin on it and said, "Okay, I know people are saying they're coming to take our jobs." And then he did this little video whereby he got all the different migrant people who work in different jobs to come and do a little talk. So he came on as, "I'm a doctor." And the other one came on, "I'm a dentist." And the other one came on, "I'm an engineer." So about 10 or 20 of them came on to show this is who we are, this is what we do. In terms of focusing on the positive, I really loved that.
When these the recent ones happened, wasn't a new thing. And many different migrant groups have experienced different sort of tensions. It's also the perceptions of people outside of the UK, what they think about this country. I kept reading on what was going on social media and how it was interpreted. And it was really interesting because people were just taking nuggets that suit them and then interpreting those in their ways, but not knowing what the whole picture was. So, yes, I have to admit, for me, it provoked anxiety, but the response in the different cities around, people coming together and saying that this country welcomes migrants.
Yes.
And I don't think the UK would be able to survive without migrants.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It also has a very negative impact. I mean, like Winnie keeps talking about anxiety. And can you imagine a strong person like Winnie feeling anxious? What about that other person who is probably not very well spoken or is just, hides away from everything because of their HIV status, getting an extra added pressure about, not being able to take your child out to the park to walk. So that really impacts people's mental health and general quality of life.
And I think it links into people from Black migrant communities sometimes disengaging from HIV care. I was speaking to someone recently who went to a clinic and they asked her about her immigration status. And as a result of that, she didn't go back. And she didn't go back for a few years and actually lost her sight. It was absolutely devastating. So then we're now in a situation where there are more people who have been in care and have disengaged with care than people who haven't yet actually tested for HIV and don't know their status. What do you think can be done to help people from Black and migrant communities living with HIV who may be struggling to stay in care?
I think good information and resources. Where I'm working, there's a study going on, it's the SHIELD study, and it does touch on disengagement and re-engagement. And they've spoken to professional caregivers as well as the patients. And so what is it we can help to do? And I think that's a good start, because then it highlights, okay, this is where the gaps are, this is where we are missing the point, this is what would help people to remain engaged in care, and things like that come up. The way you speak to patients, for example, your relationship with your clinic, distance, how much do you have to travel, poverty, do you have the money to travel? So all of those things, once they're highlighted, you know what the issues are, we can then start to unpick that and then address them little by little. That stuff you can actually take to policymakers and say, this is what the issue is, what can we do about it?
We're at a time where we are talking about ending HIV or ending AIDS by 2030. It's really important that we look at support within the communities. Where is the focus in that particular community? Where are people getting their support from? And talk to them. What kind of support do they need? Because there is always this top-down issue around the decision makers making decisions for community members. And while it's changed a bit, especially within the HIV sector, there still needs improvement. We need to try and look at communities in a different way and see what do the communities need? What are people living with HIV looking for in terms of their support? And not just about HIV, but overall, to improve their quality of life.
Absolutely. And I would say it's community leadership is absolutely crucial. It's not projects being given to us and told what we need. We know what's best. We are the experts. So I think community leadership is absolutely key. And very often there's tokenistic engagement. You know, we're asked to give our advice on a project right at the end when they've decided what that project's going to be. And there's talk of co-production, but is it really co-production, or is it just like tick box exercises and using us to actually get a project funded? Why would you say that community leadership is so crucial?
As patients living with HIV, we know our bodies best. I know what I need. I know what will work for me. So ask me. Oftentimes we're brought in, there's a research project happening, we're brought in just to maybe review a paper towards the end. But actually it's really, really important to meaningfully engage us right at the beginning and throughout the whole life cycle of a research project, right from thinking of what is the name going to be, what is the actual question. We need to be part of the study teams. We need to be part of the research team. We need to be co-authors on papers that are produced. We need to be part of the team that go out there and disseminate the information. Meaningful engagement of women living with HIV in research is not just as participants, because many times when we are brought in, it's very much as trial participants or study participants. But actually what researchers tend to forget, and it's not all of them, is the fact that those participants were also doctors, we're also nurses, we're also teachers. So actually we can be involved not just purely as participants, but also as part of the project teams. And so community leadership is really important. We don't need to be just tick boxes. We need to be part of the process.
Absolutely.
I was just going to add, and even if you don't and are not convinced with that argument, look at it even economically. You can start a project or whatever else, but if you do it in such a way that, you know, you've had no buy-in from the people that you're trying to provide this service for, it'll flop. And that's a whole lot of time and money and resources that you've wasted that you could have used if right from the beginning you just involved, okay, what language do we use? How do we reach people? There's often this phrase, people are hard to engage.
Yeah, hard to read, yeah.
You just need to find them.
Speak to the people about where do I find these? They will take you there. And all of that it's a very good economic decision. Just involve the people that you need.
Absolutely. And pay us for our time and pay us properly.
I think it is really important to empower community members to get involved in terms of the issues that they want addressed. We took it upon ourselves to say we want to raise the profile of the work that has been going on in the in African communities around HIV, to show it and to show that work through personal stories, through the stories of individuals, because we knew that would be more impactful. If you have an idea, if you have a need, talk to somebody who you think might move that idea along and take it forward.
Absolutely.
In order for community to get involved, I'll focus on women, for instance, even in clinical trials or any kind of research, we need the research literacy to understand what is research, because people have questions often. What is research? Why should I get involved? What is in it for me? But also what is in it for the community? And where we talk about Ubuntu, which is the spirit of humanity, whereby none of us exist without other people. So sometimes it's also important to explain to women about, if I might get involved in research today, it may not benefit me directly today, but it's going to benefit future generations.
We should all ask to be involved in clinical trials. They're trying out new drugs that are done on probably very few women, but we are the women who are going to take the same drugs as everybody else. We have a different constitution to men, for example. My bones are much weaker now than they were 10 years ago. Do men get osteoporosis after menopause? They don't.
That's a good question.
It's a very good research question.
But sometimes people get stopped by their own upbringings about specific cultural beliefs, religious beliefs, all sorts of different beliefs. But we know that we are all evolving through life. And I think it would be really great if there was an information campaign, health information campaign, in order to help, educate communities to, about specific issues, and also to, prevent some of the challenges that we might be facing today that are preventable.
I mean, that's a very good point. So for many of us living with HIV in itself isn't the biggest health challenge to us. It's other things like diabetes and high blood pressure, having cancer, all of these other issues that often people from Black communities are more likely to experience. But also it's the fact that we are experiencing wider health inequalities, the fact that Black women are significantly more likely to die in childbirth, the fact that we're more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. There's so many issues we're facing, and I agree with you that information is absolutely key. We need to have the information so we can advocate for ourselves, stand up for ourselves, and get the best possible care that we all deserve. So what actions are needed to actually tackle the information gap that people are facing?
As you're speaking, I'm thinking, there's another idea, another project. Health, what did you call it? Health information
Campaign.
There you go.
We need health information.
That's our next
I think
project.
we are the right people to do that through our journeys in HIV. We went with other activists. In the evenings, after work, we would go and learn about treatment and learn about opportunistic infections.
Yes.
All these were run by volunteers, run by people who were activists, and sometimes professionals would be present. This could literally translate into health for different communities. And I feel that we are very well positioned to do this.
That's the next new idea.
Absolutely agree. One of the biggest challenges as people grow older with HIV face is navigating the health system when we have many different health conditions. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling in this way?
It is good to keep track of where you're going. Have a good diary where you keep all your appointments, and ensure that you can say to the person asking for an appointment that actually I'm in this hospital at 8 or at 10. I can't wait until 4 for my next appointment. Try to get things moved together. And I have a consultant who writes very good letters, the renal consultants, with all my conditions, all my history, all my medications, because everywhere you go, they want to know what medications you have. Either you keep them in a notebook, I keep that letter that has all the things that have happened in the last 4 months. So every new one is the one that I keep. So as we age, everybody part as a consultant. I have about 7 now. And it's just having to be on top of things, managing yourself and managing everyone around you, and being able to know what to say to which doctor.
Absolutely. People didn't actually believe that you were going to write a book. How does it feel today to actually look at this absolutely amazing book with all of the stories, and then know the impact that it's having, helping people all around the world when people didn't actually think that you could write a book in the first place?
Smugness.
So
It feels absolutely wonderful. It's also very humbling, but it's also just for us, it's reaffirming and reassuring that what we thought we could do, we did it. Yeah, we did it. We can do it, and other people can too.
And they very much believe that now. Without a doubt.
They do believe that
What do
now.
they say? The proof is in the pudding. People say,
Look, here is the pudding.
No, it's very humbling, but yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible, and I mean, apart from those who didn't necessarily believe us, but there was a huge swirl of goodwill that happened, and there were others who believed in us before we'd even put pen to paper.
Having up with it.
So that was just for us. That is, we want to thank them as well for believing in us before we even thought it could happen. It could happen, or when it would happen. So I think let's again focus on who supported us, who believed in us, and who and just.
and to be fair, they have come back and said, you know what? I am blown away.
Yes.
You know, well done, because I've seen it. You've proved me wrong, and good on you. So they've acknowledged the fact that, you know what? Yeah,
we're having a lot of requests to do a book too.
yeah.
Of this book. I mean, that's how impactful this book has been. What we can say at this particular point is we can help people and support people to write their own books, because we've been talking about the process, about how we managed to get all the support that we did, and we would want to try and continue that in a more formalized way, so that people can do whatever they want. When we don't have to do it for them, people can do it for themselves.
And I think one thing I don't want us to forget to mention is that although the official 1-year road show kind of ended, it's not really ended, we're continuing to do more. One of the things we want to do is to keep taking the book outwards, but also within it, not just launch the book or show the book. We also want to do creative writing workshops with communities wherever we take the book, so that they can start to write their own stories. So that is one of the things we're planning to do. So watch this space.
Wonderful. All of you, what have you learnt in this journey over the last year?
What I personally have learned along the way is that every single person has a story in them, and they all have great stories. They just need to be brought out.
Wonderful.
One of the things that have been reaffirmed to me is that we need to trust our instincts. Get the support you need and do whatever you believe in.
Wonderful.
For me, it's having something done and letting people see that it can be done inspires people to do it. I did a talk at Positive East. It was a Muslim group. And this woman followed me down the stairs when we were leaving and said, how do I write my own story? So for me, that's impact. Like, she sees that she has a story to tell, but she didn't know how to tell it. So having to inspire people to see that, you can actually write your own story. Wherever it goes, it's another story, but having to write it out, I think it's good therapy for everyone, for anyone trying to tell their story. There are stories out there that are horrific, and women have just probably managed to just, keeping them quiet and trying to just survive. We want them to thrive.
Wonderful.
Good friendships work, regardless of where we've come from, what we've achieved, and we're still going. So yeah, it's good to have. If you have a good network, you can achieve pretty much anything.
Wonderful.
For me, I'll just say 3 things: believe, trust, and hope.
Wonderful. Thank you. How important has partnership been in this journey of our stories told by us?
We couldn't have done this book by ourselves. We worked with our allies. It wasn't just about people living with HIV from the African and Black communities. It was also about other people working in the sector, other people living with HIV from the LGBTI community.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't forget to say first our thank yous, of course. Thank you, obviously, to all the contributors in the book, but also thank you very much to our main funders, Gilead Sciences, as well as we've got some funding for Fast Track Cities London and from the Tolerance Against Trust. And always a huge thank you to Positive East for hosting us, for everything, for managing the project, and for just taking us in. So just wanted to say thank you to everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you.
One more thank you, which is really, really important. We just wanted to also say a huge thank you to LGSM Pride, who gave us some donation towards our project from the recent 40th anniversary that they had. So we want to say a huge thank you to them as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. And finally, what message would you give to a woman who may just have been diagnosed with HIV?
Firstly, you are not alone. Secondly, with access to treatment, to care and support, you can live a regular, healthy life just like everybody else. And thirdly, if you choose to either have relationships or start families, you can.
Wonderful.
I would say, listen, there is this book. I was involved in this book, and here it is. Read it, then come back to me with any question.
I'll probably share how engaging with other people living with HIV made me stronger, and realize that I can deal with this, and you build your life back together. You can do it.
Mm-hmm. I would say be as open-minded as you possibly can, because that will allow you to receive information objectively, because it's a short phase. You will come through this.
I would share my personal experience with a woman. Let her know that she's not alone. There's treatment and she'll live longer.
Absolutely, yes. So for anyone who hasn't got the book, where can they get it?
The book is available on our website at ourstoriestoldbyus.com, on Amazon or Waterstones. If you're in the States,
Barnes and Noble.
And lots of other smaller bookshops.
Wonderful. Tell me one thing that you'd like people to know about the book.
It's incredible, it's unputdownable, and it'd be great for your coffee table.
You will learn something, I promise you. You will enjoy the book. It's not a downer. It will make you stronger.
This is a labor of love. So go get yourself a copy.
This is the only one of its kind.
This says, pick me up and read me. I'm very positive and interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. That's absolutely brilliant.
And what would you say, Susan?
I would say that this book has changed my life. It's full of joy, it's full of hope, it's full of stories of resilience, and it shows what's possible when you can actually believe in yourself. So thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you all.